Mr. Tedesco, today's been a big day of political decisions, actually. You had the governor decide not to run, Rep. Brad Miller decide not to run, and then you yourself deciding that you are going to make that bid against June Atkinson for the state superintendent. Talk to me a little about that.
Well, quite frankly, part of my decision-making process has been the fact that I was very disappointed in the previous administration throughout Governor Easley, and now with Governor Perdue and with June Atkinson now seeking a third term, and the results we've had in education in this state. Ms. Atkinson announced that she was running last week, and when she did, she made a statement that said, well, we're in the third quarter and we're winning, so why would we quit now? And quite frankly, I just have very different views on that. I don't think a state where 30% of our kids are not graduating every year, where 50% of our minority kids cannot read on grade level, where we rank 4th in the nation in suspensions with a serious school-to-prison pipeline, I don't consider that winning. I think we have some serious challenges. Quite frankly, over the last several years, not just this past year as some of the partisans were trying to make it seem with a change in the General Assembly, but over the past several years. Governor Perdue, with the Democrat General Assembly at her side, watched thousands of teachers in North Carolina lose their jobs, and there was nobody there to champion the reforms we needed that would have been able to protect teachers. Like we did in Wake County, we streamlined operations, we reduced the bureaucracy, we cut ineffective programs, and we kept our dollars in the face of limited resources and critical times aimed at the classroom. We protected every teacher, and we have 18,000 employees here in Wake County. We protected every teacher, and we put $32 million more into instructional services. At the same time, we doubled our fund balance. If you were at one of our recent meetings, you might have seen that in our audit. But that took a lot of hard work and looking at things a little differently. We haven't had that kind of champion for our kids, and I'm willing to stand up and be that voice if it means rolling up my sleeves and putting up a fight.
Well, we've seen school board politics, certainly in the media, be portrayed as more politicized, and I think that's accurate to some extent. And we just had these recent Wake School Board elections where it got pretty, people had to roll up their sleeves in that battle, and there was a lot of mud being thrown either way, associating Republicans with the Tea Party, stuff like that. How do you see that playing out on a statewide level? Do you think that's going to be a problem?
No, I think what I've learned over the last several years is that there are some who love me and some who don't, but the ones who don't, I've earned their respect because I stand by the courage of my convictions. I'm a man who does what I say. I put it out there who I am. I roll up my sleeves. I do the hard work for what I believe in. And quite frankly, I think across North Carolina, they're looking for that type of leadership. I don't think what you saw in our board or how it was portrayed in political actions is reflective of the type of leadership we've actually brought to the table or that I've been able to deliver on. I've been a champion. You can see in the News and Observer, they've called me a tireless voice for underprivileged children. Whether it was fighting for discipline policy reforms, making our schools safer, reducing our dropout rates, impacting our school-to-prison pipelines, I've been that voice at the table. And I think citizens across North Carolina are going to like to have somebody at the table talking those issues. I've been a champion for children to have real equal opportunities in our schools. I think we've seen that when I talked about minority kids not getting placement into some of our advanced tracks and fought for math curriculum alignment opportunities that put thousands more minority children into advanced tracks and gave them real opportunities where, I might add, they succeeded. So I can't imagine that those are things that citizens across North Carolina are going to see as partisan on one side or the other. I think there's things that people are going to say, wow, we need someone who's going to do that for us here from the mountains to the coast, from the urban centers and from the rural pockets, who's going to fight for all of our children.
Well, you mentioned a lot of those core issues that I think most North Carolinians believe in, but at the same time, I know you do often distance yourself from your Democratic counterparts and how you guys operate and do things. And so why is it that do you think the label of conservative would be right in your case, and how do you think you differ?
I certainly feel that I'm a conservative in my views of a lot of issues and how we manage finances, and I think that's proven to be productive. It saved thousands of teachers their jobs. We streamlined bureaucracy. I think we differ because a lot of my Democratic colleagues on the board in the past have supported sort of, as I call it, business as usual. been status quo, educrats and bureaucrats who've been part of the system for 30 years and helped create the problems and are not positioned to help create the solutions. While I respect some of those colleagues, I've said that boldly, publicly, and I'm not shying away from it now. Quite frankly, I think when you're in bed with the problem for 30 years of your career, it's hard to see things a little differently. So I have no problem calling out what I see as challenges to the education system. I'm conservative in the traditions of family values in North Carolina when it comes to education. I believe in parental choice, which is why we've launched the largest parental choice assignment plan in the nation now. I think that's a positive impact. I think it helps apply free market principles to schools that bring about innovation and accountability. Ultimately, that competition among our schools will help drive better schools. So I think those are conservative values, but I think they're conservative values that are producing positive results.
Well, it was neck and neck in these last elections, but we did end up with a new Democratic majority on the school board.
360 votes swinging one way in Mr. Margiotta's district, and nothing would have changed.
How do you
$500,000 in school board races?
Pretty unbelievable amount for a school board.
For a few hundred votes to swing.
How do you feel like your Democratic colleagues are doing leading the school board now? I know it's just getting started, but at the same time, a lot's gone on already.
Well, I think one of the things we've been able to do in the short period of time, and some of that I believe is very critically aligned with the work that Superintendent Tedesco is doing. But one of the things we've been able to do is work together on the issues we're working on. I said very clearly to our new chairman, Mr. Hill, I said, listen, if we're going to work to move forward, I'm going to help you. I'm here. I'm part of this team. If you're going to work to rehash all the old issues, and you're going to go look at the fact that we hired a general for superintendent and want to try and oust the guy, I'm going to fight you every step of the way. If you're going to go try and take away our new assignment plan that gives parents stability and choice, I'm going to fight you every step of the way. And what you've seen just in the first couple of months, I think you've seen, they've delivered on keeping true to the promises we've already delivered on. So the assignment plan hasn't changed yet, right? We're still delivering that. Superintendent is still in charge. We haven't gotten rid of him like the former superintendent. In fact, you've even seen recently whether it was issues about the former protesters, and we are still moving forward with the way the board decided it before. The current board is deciding it in the same like manner.
So, was it surprising to you at all? I think it was to some onlookers that the Democrats decided not to change anything, and they decided to proceed without mediation for those protesters.
I think when the heat of politics came out of the debate, when $500,000 and thousands of political troops using Wake County for a political foothold in these upcoming 2012 years was sort of gone, people actually looked at the issues and they said, you know what? Whether you like them or not, I think these guys were right. I think our former assignment model wasn't providing the stability families needed, wasn't providing the flexibility we needed when this county had things like mandatory year-round and constant reassignment, and this is a way to move forward. Are there concerns with any new plan that we have to watch and be willing to monitor and modify? Yeah, we're all open to that. And I think that's what they're saying is, hey, all the politics is out of the air now. You have to go from campaigning to governing. And when you go to governing and you look at the solutions we've delivered on, they're the right solutions.
And in some ways, you could almost describe the plan, I think, accurately as somewhat of a compromise plan from the get-go, because it wasn't purely neighborhood schools, certainly. I mean, would you say that's true? And do you feel like you still did your part for all those people who elected you for neighborhood schools?
Certainly, because, and I would say that because I introduced that plan. I delivered that plan. As chairman of the Student Assignment Committee that we had as a board, I brought Dr. Michael Alves into that boardroom. All right, I went and met with him with the Raleigh City Chamber, and we've ended up getting the Raleigh City Chamber to help support and fund some of that early planning. And the early plan we proposed, while it was zone-based, which basically it just drew the lines around the same choices we have now. We have feeder patterns, which if you look at them, it's almost the same as the zone-based plan. But while it was zone-based, it was clustering schools together in a choice, so it wasn't a tight, strict little neighborhood, because you can't do a strict little neighborhood plan in a county that's growing. So we had to have some flexibility, but we also had to have some common sense. There's no reason to bus a kid an hour each way. Maybe he can't go to his closest school if it's packed, but the one that's 0.3 miles, a little past that, should be a viable option. So I think delivering on that to families has made them happy. I think ultimately stability as well as choice will provide families what they need in Wake County.
All right. Well, thanks very much for talking to us today, Mr. Tedesco.